important things. Number one is the importance of leadership. Because if we understand the importance of leadership, then we'll be able to give it the attention, the emphasis in our lives, in our ministries that it deserves. And then number two, we say that the marks of effective leadership, number one is faith in God. And then number two, we say Nehemiah, he had a compelling vision. And now we want to get to the number three, which is self-leadership. Somebody say self-leadership. We are talking about leading other people, but for us to be able to lead other people, we must be good in leading ourselves. When we are looking for a leader, we need to look and identify somebody that we can see they have led themselves well. Somebody that is able to relate well with people. Somebody that is informed because they keep themselves informed. Somebody that has a vision. Somebody that seems to be going somewhere. And when we talk about self-leadership, then for me, this becomes like the most important mark of a leader. Somebody that cannot be able to lead themselves well, then they can also not lead other people well. Effective leaders begin by leading themselves. And that happens by the ability to define clearly their purpose and their direction. When you look at that person, you can be able to tell this is somebody who has a purpose in life. This is somebody who has a clear sense of direction. And this is somebody who knows where they are going. They are able then to develop their own vision, their own purpose, their own direction, so that they are able to lead other people. And I want to look at a number of things in self-development. When we talk about self-development, what are some of the things that you should look at? How do you tell that you are good in leading yourself? Number one is self-awareness. Self-awareness. Many people do not know themselves. They know very little of themselves. But if there is one important thing that we need is to discover, try to do as much as possible to know who are we. Because when we do psychology, one of the things that you learn is that there is what they call a black spot. Every human being has a black spot where people know you, and yet you don't know yourself. For instance, there are people who are very selfish, but they think they are very generous. There are people who are rough. Ukikana huyo jamaa kila mara anakukwaruza, but we have no idea that is how they are. And so for you to lead yourself well, you need to deliberately seek to know yourself. In fact, you should even take a pen and a paper and ask yourself a number of things. Number one, what is your personality? Psychologists have a way of talking about personality from different things. For instance, when they're talking about temperaments, there are people who are sanguines, very talkative, people that are outgoing, people who really thrive and enjoy being with other people. When they are alone, they feel bored, they feel out of place, and they go looking for people, and they seem to enjoy people. And when you are that kind of a person, you need to know yourself, because those kind of people, they are talkative, and sometimes they can talk too much. When I used you need to know yourself that you are that kind of a person, and next of all, somebody will be everywhere and they say that a Sagui, that kind of a talkative guy, you get to know they're coming even before they get into the house. Akiwa huko nje tayari alianza kuongea na kufanya kelele, akijua nani alifanya nini, because they are talkative, their mouth leads them. But you must be very careful, because sometimes your mouth will lead you to the wrong places. And sometimes people will get the wrong things from you, and so you must know yourself, so that anytime you are doing what you do, then you know why are you doing it. And in fact, what I even want to recommend to all of us is that if you have never read a book on temperaments, and the good thing is that now today you don't even have to buy, you just go to the YouTube or to the internet and you download a book on temperaments, so that you know what is your temperament. From sanguine you go to cholerics. Cholerics are a bit talkative, a bit outgoing, but not as much. And then you find that those guys, they have energy, they become leaders. They are not emotionally very mature. Sometimes they are not very good in empathy and those things like that. But they are very good in energy to do things. They achieve projects and many practical things. But again, they also have their own weaknesses. Like the sanguines that I said earlier, the people who are disciplined. Sometimes they cannot manage their time properly, because if they meet with you, you are not in their agenda, and then you begin to talk, you can talk the whole day. Na anasahau alikuwa anaenda kwa meeting. Sasa anakuja kwa meeting kusema pole na alishelewa, doing nothing but talking. Cholerics, they'll have an issue because they are not emotional. They are not emotionally developed or mature, and so sometimes you want somebody who can come and shake it, and choleric hana hiyo neema sana ya kucheka. Wakati mwingine umefiwa, unataka mtu akuwasaidia kulia. Sasa huyo hata hajui kucheka, hajui kulia, ako hapo katikati anakaa kama mawe kidogo. But when you need a leader, when you need somebody to mobilize resources and to go places, then you have somebody else like melancholy, the third group. Melancholy are very gifted, they are very good in analysis, they can become very good accountants, doctors, very good engineers, they are good in mathematics and all that, but then he is the depressed guy. You have melancholy all the time, you see things from the negative side. They see the glass half empty. Instead of seeing it half full, they see half empty. And when you are staying with a melancholy, you must know, and even yourself, if you are that kind of a person, then you should know that many of the time you'll be looking at things from the negative side. And so when you find yourself, maybe you are colliding with people as they want to move forward, you are holding back, or you're telling them you go, or you're too cautious. Sometimes when you see you're not able to have vision and the energy to move, sometimes you need to ask yourself, why are you that negative? Maybe it's your personality, maybe it's your temperament. Then you have the quiet one, the phlegmatic. Very cool, diplomatic, very courteous. They will never have enemies. They will never war with anybody. They are easygoing. You can easily influence them on what to do. But at the same time, they are being true to themselves. They are self-centered. They are selfish. They only think about themselves. You tell them to volunteer to do something. They are not willing, because they are asking themselves, how will it benefit me? And all that. So those are temperaments that I recommend that every person, when you're thinking about self-awareness, please learn about temperaments and get to know which one you are. Nobody is purely sanguine or choleric or the other. You'll find that maybe you are 50% one, and then you are the other percentages are of the other types and all that. But self-awareness, brethren, is very important. Get to know your personality. So even as you lead people, as you lead yourself, you can always know why do you act, why do you think the way you do. Maybe what may have influenced you to think and to act the way you do. Is it your personality, the inherent, either ulizaliwa nayo, or is it because maybe of where you are brought up? Is it the influence of the environment, the community, the family where you are born? Or why maybe are you the way you are? But you need to know yourself, get to know what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses. Don't just get to know your strengths and your strengths, get to know also your weaknesses. And when it comes to talent, what I would advise is that on talent, when you discover your strengths and also your weaknesses, don't pay a lot of attention in developing your weak talents because you may never achieve. It's like, for instance, when you have a bird in a Luka Hewan, it was created to fly. Talents are things that you are created for. They were invested in you by God before you were born. And so even if you try to develop what is not there, you will never be very good at it. So in talents, develop what you have. Become very good in the area that you are talented in. And in the areas that you are not very good, please, you can almost ignore them. But when it comes to character, you must take care of your areas of weakness. You need to know in terms of character, which are the areas that you are strong and which areas are you weak. So that you strengthen what you are strong at, but also work very hard in the areas of your weakness. In character. And also in personality, sometimes there are some things you may need, or who you are, the way and that is why we need to be a bit too honest with ourselves. When it comes to self-awareness, we need to be brutally honest with ourselves. For instance, you may need to ask yourself, how do you relate with people? And why? Are you able to easily make friends? Are you able to keep friends? Are you able to have good relationships with people? In a group, are you able to be the kind of a person who unite the people, or are you the kind of a people who disintegrate groups? Wherever you are, mambo inaharibika. Ukiingia kwa group kwa vijana, hiyo group ya vijana unakuta inaisha. There are divisions, there are quarrels, there are gossips, they are slandering, and all that. Or are you the kind of a person that wherever you are, you attract people? Everybody is coming to you because they enjoy your fellowship, they enjoy your friendship, they enjoy who you are. Now, what I'm saying is self-awareness, you must become honest with yourself. And many times we are not honest with ourselves. We deceive, tunajidanganya wenyewe. For instance, if you find yourself umekosana na mtu, naturally you will blame the other person. Si mara mingi we blame the other person. But you know, there is almost 50-50 chances ya kwamba you are in the wrong when you have an issue with somebody. The possibility is 50% of the times is you are the cause of the problem. But you see, naturally, we will defend ourselves, we will blame the other person. If you have a couple, a husband and a wife, most of the time, when there is a quarrel, when there is a problem, the husband will blame the wife and the wife will blame the husband. And in that itself, then you know, these guys, either they are both wrong or one of them is wrong. In a church, when you have a problem between a pastor and the elders, or any other person, each of the teams will go defending themselves in their own thinking, and they blame the other person. But the truth of the matter is, somebody must be wrong, or they were both wrong, or they were both to blame, but they defend themselves, and that means somebody is deceiving themselves. They're talking of self-leadership. They're talking of being able to have a leadership. You lead yourself to know you are wrong when you are wrong, so that you repent and change. But many of the time we cannot have good groups or organizations or fellowships because there are people who are wrong, who are doing the wrong things, and they keep defending themselves, and they keep doing the wrong things against other people, or even against themselves, against their families, against their wives and husbands, against their children, against their bosses, against the pastor, or even pastors doing the wrong things against congregations, and they keep defending themselves, and the organizations and the families, they cannot grow, they cannot become good because they are people who are not honest with themselves. Hello? That is deep. When you become brutally honest with yourself, you go with your wife in the morning and you go into the matatu and you tell yourself, be ashamed, or shame on you. You tell yourself, shame on you. Why would you tell your wife what you stole down in the morning? Why would you treat your son the way you treated them in the morning? Shame on who? On you. And you tell yourself you change. You do something in the office, you are to blame, and you are now trying to blame everybody else, and it is for you who is supposed to change by knowing yourself, know the areas of your weakness, and deliberately choose to change and to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Self-awareness is more in the mind. By the renewal of what? Your mind, you tell yourself, this is wrong. You must change. You are selfish. You are self-centered. You are thinking only about yourself. You don't think about other people. And in the course of that, then you begin to be caring about other people. Begin to have empathy. Whereby you are always interested to know what are other people feeling. What are other people thinking when I do this, when I say this? How do I make other people feel? And you begin to be to have empathy where you consider other people as important. And you begin to give them their space. You begin to do to them what is supposed to be done to them. And by that, then you find your relationships with them becoming better and better. Somebody say amen. Amen. But somebody must be honest with themselves. Some people can never go far in life because they are lazy. They are what? Lazy. They are lazy, especially this generation. Somebody can spend 5 hours on the phone, social media. Hours and hours on what? Social media. After you're in social media for that long, what salary are you given? How much money are you paid? Because you spend 3-4 hours per day. Even at the middle of the night, you cannot sleep because there's somebody just shouting and just talking nonsense, things that do not add any value to your life. And here you are sick. You cannot stay for an hour before you have looked to see whether there is a message on your phone, and the messages that are coming, they are not for business. It's not your business colleagues that are telling you about business. It's nothing to do with development and taking you forward from where you are. It's just social nonsense. Look at somebody. This generation needs deliverance. Look at the other person. This generation requires deliverance. Because if I go to work at 8 and I work up to 5, I am paid a salary. I am paid a what? Those about 8 hours per day. If for instance, if I'm being given 90,000 per month, that means that every day in that days I'm given how much money? 3,000. So after I work for 8 hours, I'm given 3,000 shillings. But if you find somebody who will be on social media for 8 hours one day, and they don't earn anything from it, and they're not even in social media because there is something they are learning. You can go to the internet because there is a book you are reading, or there is a message you are listening that will help you to develop. But many of the time, you find that people are on social media just for social things. Even when they're in the office, they're supposed to be working for somebody, they are stealing the hours and the time of the employer to enter into useless things. Turn to the other person, tell them we need deliverance. I think it's all of us. Most likely, everybody in this room needs deliverance in one way. The level might be different. There are those who need it more than the others, but you have a generation of people who need to know. They need to have self-awareness that I am a time waster. Time waster. May God help us. If you are a gossiper, you need to know you are a gossiper. Yeah. Those people who are lustful all the time, unasikia mwili na kusisimua towards evil, you need to be honest with yourself and tell yourself, my friend, you need deliverance. Hello? Self-leadership begins with the self-awareness. That's an area that you can talk about. You can even go more into emotional intelligence to really get to know how our feelings and how our emotions are supposed to manage them, to control them, to regulate ourselves so that we don't allow our emotions to lead us, especially in relationships where we do things that are not supposed to be done against other people. We are angry, bitter against one another. Sometimes our feelings lead us to do evil and all those kind of things. But we need to know that God has given us control over our feelings, over our thoughts, over our emotions. And so if you see somebody that has, for instance, anger outbursts, ni kwamba alikasirishwa na mtu, amekasirika, ameanza kushout, I can start here to be, God has given you ability. Even if anybody did anything against you, if you know how to manage your feelings and your emotions, if you have emotional intelligence, you can still stand and don't say a word. Ukiona umekasirika sana, tafuta maji uweke kwa mdomo. Ama you just take a walk. Mke wako anakukasirisha, don't answer, just go out and have a walk for the next 15 minutes. At least your energy ulikuwa nayo ya anger itoke, alafu rudi mwambie mama pole. Apologize hata kama sio ulikuwa na makosa. And life, do what? Continue. But you find that many a time we are angry, we are feeling bad against one another, we cannot work well with other people, and all this, and somebody anasema mimi alinifanyia na mimi lazima nifanye hivi. Sasa that shows us how weak you are in what you call emotional intelligence, that you don't know how to be intelligent. You intelligently control and manage and regulate your emotions, and you do what needs to be done. Unaweza sikia wengine huwa wanajigamba, unajua mimi I say things as I see them. Shaka usikia mtu anasema hivi, mimi nasemanga mambo vile alivyo. Hiyo ni ujinga. Hiyo ni nini? Ukisikia mtu anasema na pengine ni wewe kwamba mimi nasemanga mambo vile ninavyoona. Nakwambia my friend, we don't say everything we think or everything we feel. And that is what emotional intelligence is, that you select out of the many feelings, out of the many emotions that come, out of the many thoughts that come to your mind, then you are intelligent enough to select, to know what to say and what to do, where and when, and only that which is useful. And remember a verse that Paul wrote to the Ephesians. Is it 4:29? Yeah. This is what Paul told the Ephesians 4:29. Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. Before you utter any word, ask yourself, is whatever you are saying helpful for building your wife, for building your child, for building your friend, according to their need, that they may benefit, that it may benefit those who listen. Emotional intelligence is now that ability to filter in your mind and in your mouth that you only say that which is helpful, that which will build others up, that which is beneficial to those who listen. And this happens through self-awareness and self-management. You are able to manage your thoughts, you are able to manage your feelings, and if you manage your thoughts, it becomes easy now to manage your feelings. Because it is our thoughts that affect our feelings. So in self-leadership, self-awareness becomes very important. And I want to give you an assignment. Please, this evening or when you go home, you take 3 foolscaps, and one of the foolscaps, both pages, write all what you know about your personality. About your personality. Who are you? Then number 2, on both pages, write your strengths on both pages. Make sure that you are full. All your strength. You must discover who you are. You are created with a lot of strengths and abilities. And then the other one, write your weaknesses on both pages. And then you begin to learn how to manage your weaknesses so that you don't bring them before the public and before other people, even as you continue to strengthen your areas of strength. But remember, the first assignment is look for a book and study temperaments. No human being should stay in this world, according to Bunyeri, who does not know or who have not done a study on temperaments, and they have already known their area of or which temperament they belong to out of the 4. The sanguines, the cholerics, the melancholies, and the phlegmatics. That's a very key thing in life. So in self-leadership, number 1 is self-awareness, but then number 2 is self-development. For you to lead yourself well, you need to seriously consider how to develop yourself. And we are talking about self-development is more to do with building your capacity and making sure that you are building your capacity in an all-rounded manner. And when we're talking about building your capacity, we're talking about you develop the ability to do the things that you do. If you're a pastor like me, for instance, I must build my capacity or knowledge of the Word of God. I'm a teacher, I must develop the capacity to be able to communicate well, to be able to teach well. For instance, that is why, like for me, when I did a BA in Bible and Theology, I decided to do a master's in Christian education so that I learned the things that teachers are taught. I knew naturally I am gifted to be a teacher, and I needed to know what are the things that teachers should know. Later I also discovered I My colleague said, I was talking, I'm more of a leader. But then I need to get more knowledge on leadership. How do leaders lead? Those are the things that I keep on developing in a daily basis. I am a pastor. I must keep on learning every day. I am always on YouTube listening to messages from other teachers. And I don't just listen just to anybody, but there are some people I have identified who preach or speak on various topics that concern and are of interest to me. And I keep on listening. In fact, if there is one thing I do, I also go on social media, but mostly you'll find me on YouTube listening to preaching and teaching messages. One of the things that I have always said, or sometimes I do, is make sure that the line that I go to the social media with, especially to listen, is not the one that I use to communicate with people, so that I can be on social media and I'm not receiving the messages that I receive ordinarily that will interrupt me. Hello? Yes. Self-development. You ask yourself, for instance, I'm a pastor. What do? I make sure that every year, for instance, on the minimum, I read the Bible through from Genesis to Revelation, to make sure that I have information of the Bible. Spiritually, as a pastor and as a believer, one of the things that I do is to make sure that I pray, I fast. In fact, like for me, for many, many years, I like to go for 4 long fastings every year. At the beginning of the year, I go for 21 days. As we get to around March, I go for another 21 days of prayer and fasting. By the time we are getting to June, July, I go for another one. And as we approach the end of the year, October, November, there, I also go for another 21 days of prayer and fasting. And that way, I'm able to keep myself and a list of prayer needs. No, most of the time, it's just to make sure that I have fasting. You find that even some habits, you are able to break them. Either habits of thinking or in other ways, and you find that then I'm able to develop myself. For instance, because I'm a pastor, I like to divide the year into 4 in my church. I have 9 of them. Then I come with the sub-things of every 3 months. And what I do, because every 3 months I have a sermon service on something that I'm teaching on a particular line, then I listen so many messages from other good teachers, and I read the books on that particular area before I teach. Now in my church, this time round, the last 3 months, I've been teaching on serving God with excellence in the church. That involves giving, it involves serving God. And before I got there, I listened to so many messages by other preachers. And I read any book that I could get to inform myself in the area of giving and in the area of serving God. Now, you, depending with who you are, if you are an engineer, for instance, you need to develop yourself in that area. If you are a journalist, you need to develop yourself in whichever area, foundation foundation, is that what we call it? Vocation. Whatever vocation, whatever profession or career you are in, make sure that you develop yourself and develop yourself well. That is why in the morning we were saying that anybody that is over 20 years of age, you can educate yourself. Somebody say amen. Because even those who have the best of parents, you still need self-development in a daily basis. Self-development. You need to seek for knowledge and skills that are necessary, and especially now that we are living in a global village where you find the technology It's making everybody to have a lot of access to the things that they can get, and things are changing too fast. And because of the changes that are happening, then you find that new knowledge, new skills are necessary all the time. Because of that, then we must keep ourselves informed. We must keep on learning all the time so that we can become people that are ready for the world. We are talking about self-leadership. So you lead yourself in developing yourself. You don't need anybody to supervise you, and this is a lifelong thing. Learning, self-development is something that should be there. In fact, today, I think I am seeking knowledge now more than I have ever done before in my life. I'm now 61 years of age. And this is the time, especially now that I've been given a position of deputy president bishop, is the time I feel I need a lot of information. I need to inform myself. I need to learn more. And now that I'm in that position, one of the things that I've been doing is to ask myself, what are some of the things that maybe I'll be encountering in that position? What kind of knowledge do I need to be an effective deputy presiding bishop when I go? Because that position requires that sometimes you must interact with the high people in government, you must interact with politicians, you must interact with technocrats in the government, I must interact with the people in the community where I am, I must now interact with other church leaders from other church organizations, and even from my own church. So what kind of knowledge, what kind of skills do I need? I know for you, maybe you have been promoted in your place of work. Maybe before you are in one level of position. Now maybe you desire to go, you aspire to go to another level. Even before you get there, you need to inform yourself, develop yourself until your boss sees the need to promote you. Because you already know a lot more than the level where you are. And if you have been promoted like me, then it is the time now to make sure that you learn the information and the self-development. In self-leadership, number 3 is self-motivation. Self-motivation. For you to become a good leader of other people, you must be that kind of a leader that you are about to hear the same, but allow me to distinguish them. And we see in Nehemiah, he was a man of self-motivation. Out of his own decision and choice, he decided to go to Jerusalem to build the walls. There's nobody who told him to do it. Maybe God impressed him in his heart, and I think he did. But he was a self-motivated. You do so well tomorrow, there are no sales. Businesses doing like this, then some other specials come and all that, or even in marriage, even in our own leadership as we lead other people, in our offices, you'll always find there are tough things that come. And in all those circumstances, you need to be the kind of a person that then life becomes a bit too difficult for the leaders because they have to carry watu wengine wanakaa kama huyu. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. Unamwencourage, unamsukuma, unamwacha hapo, ukifika sasa ataenda. Ukikuja kesho unamkuta mahali ulimwacha. Hiyo life inakuwa ngumu sana. But for you to become a self-leader, then you must be that kind of person who motivate themselves. What is self-motivation? Self-motivation for me is the ability to overcome obstacles in your mind that tell you that you cannot do what you are supposed to do. The ability to overcome obstacles in your mind that tell you that you cannot do what you do. It means that in your mind we have barriers and limitations in our head. Mind limitations. But you ask people why they have always desired to do in this room. you will hear many stories. Many stories. Unajua mimi sijafanya hivyo, sina capital, ninataka business lakini sina capital. Wale wanafanya biashara wao walitoa capital wapi? Hello? I have a school in church, but I didn't ask the church for any capital. We began without capital. Right now we have a building, as I said, one among many that we have used 60 million to build. We have 3 buses. I have a staff of about 60 people in my church. And now we are paying salaries. Yesterday we are paying late kidogo. We don't like it that we like to pay on the 30th. We are paying payroll of 1.7 million every month, and money comes. And you don't have capital, but we have to think, what will other people do? Because some of the people who are doing the best businesses in the world, they didn't have a rich father or a rich mother, they didn't have anything, but they are rich. What did they do? It is your responsibility to seek how things work in the world. Nobody will come and do it for you. You must seek to know how do things work. Those who want to get into business, and they are getting into business of even of billions and billions of shillings, how did they begin? Well, even as they were continuing, how are they doing it? So what I'm saying, there are barriers and limitations that we allow in our head that things cannot be done. Things can be done, my friend. And they are working. There are many people kama sasa wa Kenya wengi wanasema economy ni baya, my friend. Economy ni baya kwako, si baya kwa watu wote. It is a truth. Na nikuulize, although many of you are young, when was it said that economy ni mzuri? Tangu uzaliwe, lini ulikuta watu wakisema economy ni mzuri, kwa hiyo mambo iko mzuri? Kibaki alikuja akabadilisha economy, watu wakaanza kusema hii economy ya Kibaki, wanasema they grow with 10%. Sasa angalia, it is not trickling down. By the time Kibaki was 25 years, Kenya iliingia kwa vita kwa sababu tunataka kumwondoa by all means. Kwa sababu economy ni baya. Unanielewa? 2007, 2008, we were fighting with all energy to remove Mzee Kibaki from power. Why? Kwa sababu economy ni baya. Ndio wakati ule ameitana around. Uhuru akakuja. Tukalalamika for 10 years, economy ni baya. Sasa mtu ameingia, sasa ndio tunalalamika, sasa ndio imeharibika zaidi ya zote. It is attitude. Somebody touch your head like this. Kenyans, we need deliverance.